plan that's right for you.
Mountain Auto Parts in Crestline reminds everyone that the blood you donate gives someone another chance at life. Someday, that someone might be a friend, a loved one, or even you. So please give blood, give the gift of life. That's Mountain Auto Parts at 23754 Lake Drive in Crestline, where they care about your total satisfaction with their selections, service, quality, and pride. You're not just a number there, you're a friend. Mountain Auto Parts on the air because they care.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go? Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA app.
Just do it and download it.
KCAA, celebrating 25 years.
KCAA.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary, Treasurer, and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Randy Corrigan here, Worker Power Hour, KCAA 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Longtime organizer, first-time radio host. First, I'd like to talk about last week's show. I thought that we did a show on right to work. For those of you that didn't listen, you might want to go back and listen to it. I have gotten a ton of feedback regarding the discussion that happened on that show from various spaces: retirees, non-union members, existing members, workers, friends. It was a show that really exposed some truths that had been kind of hanging out there for 60, 70 years that a lot of people were unaware of, and the exchange that's come from it has been very, very good and very effective. So if you haven't listened to it yet, feel free, go back and take a listen and understand the real history of right to work and the oxymoron that it is. They call it right to work. Clearly, it's an oxymoron of a statement. It's not right to work. It's the opposite of it, and its origins being of such a, I would call it, very disgusting racial beginning or racist beginning, is quite appalling. I guess it's why it's been hidden. Those facts have been hidden for so long. Anybody who's part of that organization, what they call the Right to Work organization, should be embarrassed by its history. With that, that ties into a discussion that came off of it, which is a bill out of Kentucky, House Bill 500, that has been proposed because right to work passed in Kentucky in 2017. And just a few years later, there's a House bill that they're trying to process right now that would strip away lunches, breaks, overtime, the way overtime is paid, the way people get paid for their time to go between jobs. Stripping a lot of what is basic issues. That bill is actually being ripped apart now. The backlash in Kentucky from elected officials and a lot of obviously residents, voters in the state pushed back tremendously on it, and it probably is going to get pulled back. But it's an example of when right to work comes, then there's all these other things that come right behind it. And so when you get a chance, make sure you listen to that show. It's very impactful. Had a ton of very, very robust discussions and good feedback in the way we handled that show and the things that we talked about. So With that, always want to remind you, call in toll free 888-909-1050. I've got a really, really cool Teamster Advantage partner. This goes all the way back to my childhood, not just mine, but also Mark's childhood. Sometimes he's in here. You guys get to hear him speak from afar in the mic. But from Scott from Don's Bicycles. And for those of us that grew up in the IE, they were a staple place for where all the kids went. Not just them. There's a couple others. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But I've also got a couple other guests on the backside of the hour, which is Nicole Pfefferman. She's a social studies teacher and the director of the Young Workers Project. And I'm going to have our very own Carlos Gonzalez on here, who helps me come up with our 3 Teamster jobs every week. You guys hear me talk about them every week. So guess what? You're going to get to hear them on the show this week because of the partnership we've built with the Young Workers Project and some of the work that we're doing in the community. You're going to get to hear about that on the backside of the show. That'll be our guest, and I'm really looking forward to that exchange and all of that. And so let's talk about our 3 Teamster jobs. When you show up at a gas station, it used to be back in the day, all the gas station attendants were Teamsters. It was a union service symbol there. It's another story. We'll get into that at another show. But even to this day, you're impacted by Teamsters at a gas station. When you see the sticker there with the weights and measures sticker, at least in San Bernardino County, and you recognize, okay, well, how do I know that I'm actually, if I'm paying for a gallon of gas, that I'm actually getting a gallon? There are actually individuals that work for the county of San Bernardino that work in the weights and measures department, and they go around and make sure all those things are accurate, and those are Teamsters. And so the next time you're looking at that and you're wondering, hey, how do I know that I'm actually getting the full gallon? There's actually individuals that work for the county, at least in this area for the county, and make sure that those are all that those numbers are accurate, that the amount is accurate. So think of Teamster. The next one is within San Bernardino County, and actually a lot of the cities within San Bernardino and Riverside County are Teamsters code enforcement inspectors. They are, whether there's also for construction, but also restaurants. And so when you see the label on the window, you know, A rating, B rating, C rating, you may not be happy that it's a B rating, but obviously if there's a B rating, there's a reason for it. And the person that did the work to went in and make sure that the food establishment was clean, that it was safe, and that rating was, you know, that the restaurant was following all the proper protocols to deliver safe food. Those are Teamsters for the most part in all of San Bernardino and a lot of Riverside County that are actually performing that job. The last job is, many of you may like El Pato sauce for your enchiladas. Did I say that right, Carlos? El Pato? I do okay? All right, good. You know, everybody kids me because I'm the white guy and I like all the Mexican food, and I've grown up in that environment and that culture. And you know, every now and then I sound really white, especially when I say chile verde. Anyway, El Pato sauce in your enchiladas, you know, and other Latin foods, that is produced by Teamster members at Local 630. And I actually think that's produced right over here in Ontario, correct? They produce it there and gets canned and manufactured and sent out. So think of Teamster next time you're in the grocery store and you want to get some Spanish rice or some rice that's got a little bit of spice to it, or you're going to make some enchiladas and you know it's got that sauce in it. It was a Teamster that made it happen. With that, I'm going to go into our current labor news. And I'm going to try to speed through this because I'm actually want to spend a whole bunch of time with Scott here. We were chatting before we started up, and we got into this exchange. I was like, man, we got to get that exchange on the live on the air because it's just really excited about having Don's on here. I've been looking forward to it for a while. Anyway, in recent news, current labor news, the first thing I want to talk about is the Dartmouth College basketball team just recently voted to become union. And so, yeah, these college kids now, you know, their likeness and all these things that they, for years, as they go to college, and a college would be able to use their skill, and let's say football players or basketball, and they're extremely good at it. They didn't get paid for that. And, you know, these colleges are making a ton of money on these kids. They're not kids, obviously they're adults, but I guess I'm getting old, so I call them kids. But those colleges utilize that skill that they have, that they bring, whether it be basketball, football, baseball. They actually have won the right. It was a few years ago. I think it was Minnesota was what broke through that for them to organize and collectively bargain for their work that they're performing for the school, because the school is financially benefiting from it. Anyway, Dartmouth College men's basketball team voted in favor of it, and congratulations to them. Hope all the basketball players in college go down that path. And, a lot of times in professional sports, people don't last a long time. And, it's very tough. It's very demanding. And, hopefully they can be as rewarded as possible for the hard work that they do. The next one is Activision, the gaming software company. 600 workers, just about 600 workers have unionized at the Microsoft-owned Activision. The vote came down 390 out of 398, so I'm assuming that went 390 to 8. That's pretty overwhelming. So congratulations to those workers for that Microsoft owns them. It's great to see those workers occupying that space. Obviously, Microsoft is a very, very wealthy company. And I'm assuming that they're going to sit down and do the right thing to take care of those workers. Think of the gaming industry, how much it's changed. I remember Activision being different than what it is today. I remember in television. I don't know if anybody sitting here remembers in television. Atari, the first game of Asteroids that came out. I remember the cool kid in the neighborhood that had the little freestanding Asteroids game, and obviously this has morphed into quite an industry now, and it's good to see those workers organizing. The last point of news I want to point out is personal. It personally affects me because I get so many text messages on this subject, people on both sides of the aisle politically that blow me up, and that is Biden seeks the endorsement of the Teamsters for the labor vote, and he interviewed with the Teamsters last week, just as Trump and others had interviewed with the Teamsters General Executive Board in Washington D.C. In January, and so clearly the right thing to do is to sit down, go through all of the questions and policies in which elected official is engaging in and making sure that they match up to working people. We represent more than 1 million workers in America, more than 1 million families and households, and clearly it's important to know what their policy decisions are going to be in this space and how they're going to be affected. And it's always ironic to see how everybody in today's day kind of overreacts. When Trump was at the building a couple months ago, obviously back in January, all our liberal members were freaking out. And I'm like, hey guys, can you chill out? Like, that's our job. Our job is to sit down and not take a personal preference and to understand where legitimate candidates are so that in the end, a voting process can happen to decide who is going to be better, who is believed the leadership is going to be better for the membership and to represent the membership if they're president of the United States. Or any other, U.S. senator or whatever it may be. And so then obviously the flip side of it is, then all the Republicans get nuts. Oh, what's going on? How come they got Biden there? It's like, hey guys, like everybody chill out. Like this is part of the process. It's not like the union votes for you. They don't do it. No one takes your ballot. It's a recommendation. And it's like, look, here's what here's what the individual who's running for a particular office's policies are. Here's how they responded to the questions. Here's what their track record is. Here are the things that they did when they held an office before or when they voted on things that may have gone before Congress or the Senate or, at the president's level, what executive orders they had passed or refused to pass or vetoed bills that may have gone through Congress at a certain point. And so all of those things have to be taken into account so that you can make a good decision on what's the best for more than 1 million members, workers who are making sure this country moves every single day. And sometimes that conflicts with individual issues. It conflicts with what are divisive issues in some areas that everybody can fight about forever. the idea is to get people into that space, whether it be President Biden or President Trump, and find out where you can find compromise and areas to get things done. And then you tally it up and you say, okay, well, there's 9 out of 10 spaces that this candidate is supportive, and this one's 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10. Clearly you got to go with the one that has a good track record of supporting working people based on facts, not what Facebook says in 13 seconds. So it's really important to break all that stuff down. The reason I thought it was interesting to bring it up, I like to have fun with this conversation because politics always drives good arguments between people. I think that it's okay to disagree from time to time. Let's agree to disagree. Let's maybe be spirited about our position, but at the end of the day, recognize that we got to work together to make this country great. It's not about an individual that makes it that way. It's about us working together and coming together that makes this country great. It's a Worker Power Hour, KCAA 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Thanks for having us. That now transitions us into our Teamster Advantage partner. And before I let him talk, I just got to talk about how, giggly I'm getting thinking about, all the old bikes that I had. I hear that Don's actually has a bunch of bikes from our era that are at the at the shop. You can go in, they're on display and take a look at them. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I really appreciate the fact that Scott, you're here. We appreciate what your father did. I, for one, remember, because I grew up in Fontana, it was Rick's Bicycle City that I always went to because it was closer. Obviously, Don's was a bit further because I lived in Fontana, in various parts of Fontana most of my life, and Rialto was, clearly a bit further away. And I remember I went there a few times, but for me, it was once a week, me and my brother had to go to Rick's, right? We had to go to the bicycle shop. We had to see what the new hottest thing was. We had to, dream about some of those bikes that were coming off the line or what was new happening or, the new tires, the new brakes, especially when brakes were the handle brakes were just coming out and getting better and better. It just brings back all kinds of great memories of being a kid, being active, getting on my bike, and we would disappear. We would just disappear and be gone. We didn't have a cell phone. There was no electronic leash. We bolted, and we would end up in another city. I know one time we rode our bikes all the way to Montclair from Fontana. I don't remember how the hell we got back. But at the end of the day, we'd go on the hills and we drive here, we ride here and ride there. And so with that, Scott, tell us about Don's Bicycle Shop. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me on. So basically, my dad opened it up in 1959. Excuse me, April 1st. So we're coming up on our 65th anniversary, which is pretty cool. Not everybody can say that. Long history short, my dad opened it up. I kind of grew up around bikes as a kid, so I would help him out. I would do a lot of the purchasing for him. And I guess I just sort of at least learned the fundamentals of how a small business works. And 5 days after my 18th birthday, my father passed away. He was actually riding his bicycle home, and he had a heart attack. So that was kind of a shock to myself and my older brother and my mom. And it's like, wow, okay, we have this little business. It was a little 500 square foot kind of hole in the wall business. As I shared with you off the air, I found his ledger. His first day in business, he did $8.78. Which I think back in 1959, you could put a deposit on a house, I think back then for that kind of money. But we had to make a decision, and we decided to keep the business going. I was in college at the time, and it was not what I planned on doing for a living. As a matter of fact, my dad didn't even want me involved in the business. He didn't think there was a future in it. So I ended up finishing my degree.
And your dad was a mechanic at Norton, right?
He was. He worked 2 jobs. He was a workaholic. Was gone, worked crazy hours. So yes, he was in the Air Force during World War II, and then he also worked as a mechanic at Norton Air Force Base when that was a thing. In addition to running the bike shop, basically kind of a one-man operation. Occasionally he'd have people come in and help, and I would help around the shop as well. But, we, as a family, had to make a decision. Do we keep this thing? We decided to keep it. It was generating an income. It was getting me through school. So we kept it, and we expanded it over the years and hired our first employee when I was at college, kind of to help when I wasn't there. And then we moved it in the early 80s down to our current location, did several expansions there. And then again, long story short, I had to make a decision. Was I going to be a marriage and family therapist, or was I going to run a bike shop? And I just make more money selling bikes, so that's kind of.
But you can still get them to come in, sit on the couch.
Yes.
Ask them some questions.
Right.
And then, hey, do you want to buy a bike?
Right. I'll show you this electric mountain bike.
If you exercise, you'll actually be a better person because you'll all those endorphins, all that good stuff.
Right.
You won't be upset at each other.
No, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of psychology in sales, a lot of psychology in business. And obviously, cycling is a great thing. It's physical and it's social and it's fun. And as you're pointing out, it brings back all those memories as kids.
And you guys are beasts. You cyclers, man. I see you on the road. Like I live in Yucaipa, and I see you all the time on Wildwood Canyon or Beaumont Avenue. Seeing you guys go up that hill, you make me tired just watching you as I'm driving by you.
Well, I'm kind of a roadie myself. There's obviously different categories of bicycles. I'm a roadie. I got into road cycling. It's funny, one of my first employees raced bikes, and he'd show up to work with shaved legs, and the guy was doing like 300 miles a week.
Oh, my.
And I'm thinking, man, this guy's pretty impressive. I mean, he's just a monster. And I thought, maybe I'll try that. And so, I got into bike racing, and I realized that if it came down to a sprint, I was going to lose really badly. I was a horrible sprinter, but I was a good climber. I could do well in the mountains and the hills. And that's kind of what I focused on, and started getting serious about my training and worked with a coach for a while. Started riding back and forth to work every day, training basically every day, and won 2 state titles for California. In '92, I qualified to go to the U.S. Olympic trials.
Oh, boy.
So I competed in the U.S. Olympic trials. I finished 38 out of 300. That was the last year that the Olympics were open to amateurs. So it was basically the last year for some unknown, schmuck like me to actually go to the Olympics.
You're no schmuck in the IE. Everybody knows who Don's bicycle is.
No, I appreciate that.
Right.
But yeah, cycling's just been a big part of my life. I ran a professional team for 5 years. I got a corporate sponsorship from 7-Up. Ran a men's team, also ran a women's professional cycling team, which was sponsored by Diurite Cola. 4 of my athletes competed in the Olympics, and one of my female athletes won a silver medal in Rio on the velodrome.
Wow.
So that's kind of it. And
this is rock star status here.
I mean, I love it. I love my job. I have the best job in the world. I get to go to work every day and love what I do.
Everybody in the bicycling community, that's what they call it. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows your establishment because of all this activity that you do in the community.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's weird because, I got an award from the city of Rialto. It was the Bridge Builders Award, talked about giving back to your community. And, they asked, well, what makes you give back to your community? And it's simple, because my community gives so much to me. And the thing about a bike shop, as you know from your childhood, is that it's kind of like a barber shop to an extent. It's a special kind of business where you really get to know people.
Yeah, what I always loved about when I went into Rick's, kind of like what Mark said about your dad, is knowing your dad.
Yes.
You guys always remember the kids coming in, right? Because we're dreaming about that next bike, and then you build that relationship with us at that age, right? And then as soon as we got the money, we're like, hey man, I need to get those tires, or I need to get this, this brake set, or whatever it may be. And that's very valuable, especially in today's day when everybody's connected to these electronic devices.
Yes.
Like, you provide something for the community that gets people moving, that gets, it gets them active. Obviously it's very hard to be on your phone texting while you're riding a bike. I'm sure
people
lots of
do it.
I would try it. I can tell
people
you,
do
right?
it. Well, you're right. I mean, it's kind of to an extent an old-fashioned activity, but it's physical, it's social, and it kind of goes against some of the.
And it's great exercise.
Oh yeah, it's great cardio. It doesn't beat you up, and it's weird. The part of the fun of this is that we have such a diverse group of people that we deal with. It's the kids. It's older people that maybe want an electric bike. That's a new booming category.
Yeah, give me that. I want the bike that's going to drive me around.
Well, you think that, and people are like, well, that electric bike, it rides itself, doesn't? No, it doesn't. You still have to pedal it.
You have to pedal a little
Correct.
bit.
You're still getting a workout. Right. It just kind of extends the range of what you can do. So you're talking about Yucaipa. Well, now you can ride up that hill. You're still going to get a workout. But
get the electric part of it to take me up the hill, and then I get to pedal it coming down.
Sure. But it's a very diverse group of people, and just the experiences that we have, the crazy, I could write books about this stuff, just the crazy experiences we've had with people. And again, getting to know people on a personal level, getting to know their struggles. I had a guy just 2 weeks ago came in, and he was looking for a mountain bike, and I could tell there was something just a little off about him. I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but I'm having to try some bikes, and he just didn't have the balance for it. And I'm like, and then he says, let me tell you what happened to me. And apparently he was on his motorcycle heading north on the I-15, and somebody hit him from behind, knocked him off his motorcycle. He goes skidding. He said, I had all my protective armor, so I knew how to fall, and I'm rolling on the freeway. He goes, I'm doing okay. And then I got run over by a truck, a semi, ran this guy over. And basically,
he survived, though. I guess we're chuckling because he survived.
He survived, yeah. But he's lying on the side of the freeway. And again, not to talk to you about the dark side of human nature, but the people that hit him, according to him, they stole his wallet. They came up to him, stole his wallet, and then left. And they went on a spending spree in Vegas. So the guy that was driving the truck helped him. They airlifted him out. He was in a coma for 7 months, and he finally came to, and he's on the road to recovery now. I'm just like, my jaw's just hitting the floor going, oh my God. These are the kind of stories that I get to hear, and to be part of this guy's journey back from hell, it's an honor and a privilege to have those sorts of experiences. And like I said, I could write a book full of those kinds of stories, but it's so cool.
So let's talk about some of the bikes that you have. I know I have a few of them hanging in my garage from our boys.
Yeah.
And two of them now are driving, so the last thing they want to do is touch a bicycle. But it's I've personally purchased bikes from your shop, and I know a lot of listeners probably have, and if they haven't, let's talk about what you have there. I know you have mountain bikes, you have regular BMX bikes, you have your basic, I'm sure you have beach cruisers.
Yes. So again, that's another cool. We are a very diverse shop, and not every bike shop is diverse.
Correct.
We are not only diverse in terms of the brands that we offer, but in terms of the types of bikes, because some shops we just sell electric bikes, or we just sell road bikes, or we're all pretty much a mountain bike store. For me, it's like, I want to get everybody. So I try and cater to kids, whether it's a 2-year-old who's going to hop on a push bike.
But that kid's going to grow up and buy an electric bike.
That's right. Well, we want to get them hooked on the sport, right? We want to get them excited about it. So it's everybody from the little child that's getting their first bike to, somebody who's like, you know what, I want to get back on a bike, but I've got some kind of an issue with balance, so we'll put them on maybe like a recumbent trike. So there's that category. Electric bikes, again, huge, huge, huge. It's becoming a bigger piece of the pie as far as what we sell, and there's all kinds of different electric bikes as well.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when somebody's even talking about electric bikes, I'll say, look, let me just stick you on one, tell me what you think, and in every single time, the expression on their face when they come back is like, oh my God, it's like, wow.
I know, I want one. I do.
It's so much fun. And for me, it's exciting because it's a fairly new category, but it's getting a lot of people on bikes that maybe couldn't otherwise, maybe they want to keep up with their friends and they just can't. Sold an electric road bike to a lady, and her husband's like, yeah, I want to keep up with my husband here, but he's just faster than I am. Well, now he's going to have a hard time keeping up with her.
So now that we hear that you got basically every bike that there is to have, what's I know that you've been part of the Teamster Advantage partnership since almost the beginning of us. Yeah, you were one of the first. We have more than 1,000 small businesses connected to that network now. I don't know if you know it's that large.
Didn't.
It's huge, and man, we have so much. I have so much fun with this because obviously for us we're providing a free service to the small businesses, and that partnership has got a discount. I forget what the discount is. It's 10% on parts and labor, and so for us, I always when I see this push notification that comes through that says, don't forget Don's Bicycles, and we always have some cute saying that goes with it. For me, it's always a blast to the past of being a kid. And so we appreciate the partnership. We actually really appreciate the work that you do. I got to wrap up and go to break here in a few minutes.
Sure.
But maybe we close on what that partnership has meant for you in partnering up with us as an organization, literally, I think, since 2016 or 17.
Yeah, it's great. And we love having members come in. It's always, we try and treat everybody special. That's why I've been around for like 65 years. But certainly when your folks come in, it's great to have them as part of, we're always there for them, whatever their cycling needs are. So no, it's been a wonderful arrangement. Your people are great. So we hope this continues for a long time. But yeah, it's been wonderful.
It will. As long as we're going to be around, we're going to have this program, and you're more than welcome to participate. We don't. How much do we charge you?
Oh, for the radio show?
No. How much do we charge you for the Teamster Advantage partnership?
Boy, it's free.
Yeah, I know.
So-
Everybody, 'cause nobody believes, like, when you first have the conversation, they're like, how much is it? There's
What's
got
it
to be a
cost?
backside gimmick in it.
Right.
No, not at all.
No,
like,
it's free.
Like, our goal was to build it out like it is today,
Sure.
where it is so large, and we're in over 20 chambers throughout the Inland Empire, and just bring in a message of shop local. Don't go to Walmart to buy the bike. Don't go to Target. Don't go to all these other places. Go to the local shop and try to figure out how to make sure that you keep your tax dollars in the local economy. Keep those small businesses, connected in a way that we do. This is KCAA 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. It's the Worker Power Hour. Scott, we really want to thank you for coming on. We appreciate you being here. Any last couple words before we go to break?
Check out the new electric bikes. I mean, really
going
cool.
to.
Yeah. Come by and see our BMX museum. It is at the Rialto
And that's
location.
in Rialto.
Yes. So if you had a BMX bike as a kid, you were going to freak out when you walk in the store and see all these bikes. It took us about a year to collect them from all over the country. It's going to blow you away. If you had like a GT or a Dyno, some of these classic vintage BMX bikes, we put together an amazing museum.
What was the other one? KP Ripper?
PK Ripper.
PK Ripper.
Yep. We got a
Ripper.
PK Ripper too. We got them all.
Oh, yeah.
We got 'em all.
All right. This is the Worker Power Hour. We're going to go to break. Let's see you on the other side. Thanks, Frank.
Was your car involved in an accident or just need help with dents? All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers. In business for over 30 years. Their highly trained staff and certified technicians and friendly staff are the best in the business and treat each car as if it was their own. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are family owned and offer state-of-the-art equipment and tools to ensure optimum results. They use the latest technology in computerized color matching and specialize in frame repairs. With their modern laser measuring systems, they're OEM certified, and they have 4 locations to serve you. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers offer rental car assistance with free drop-off and pickup services too, and their work has a lifetime guarantee. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are in Norco, Eastvale, Moreno Valley, and in Fontana. Call them at 1-800-61-MAGIC. That's 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers. 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Auto Body says, drive carefully.
Redlands Ranch Market is a unique full-service international grocery store that specializes in authentic food items from Mexico, India, and from many Mediterranean and Asian countries, including popular items from the U.S. They offer fresh-baked items from their in-house bakery, house-made tortillas from their tortilleria, a delicious array of prepared Mexican foods, a terrific fresh fruit and juice bar, and a large selection of meats, seafoods, and deli sandwiches, salads, and halal meats. Their produce department is stocked full with fresh, local, and hard-to-find international fruits and vegetables that you cannot find anywhere else. Don't forget to stop into the massive Beer Cave and experience the largest selection of domestic, artisan, and imported beers in the IE. They can also cater your next event with one of their delicious takeout catering trays of food. Visit them at RedlandsRanchMarket.com. That's RedlandsRanchMarket.com. Redlands Ranch Market, a unique and fun shopping destination.
We're back. This is Randy Corrigan with the Worker Power Hour, KCAA 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Our call-in number is 888-909-1050. Hey, if you're right around the corner, you can dial 909-792-5222. You know, this whole thing about a toll-free line, is there anything, do we really need toll-free lines anymore? I know it's good marketing gimmick, but like everything now, the way phones work, do you get charged? So maybe we'll have another show on that in the future. I'm really excited about our next couple guests. Number one, Carlos Gonzalez. He's a trade unionist, works with me. I've been working with him for pretty close to 2 decades now in one form or another, bouncing around the labor movement. He works at 1932. And then we also have Nicole Pfefferman on. And we just saw her zoom in. She is a social studies teacher for LAUSD, and she is also the director of the Young Workers Project. And one of the things that we've been doing as a union is we've really been engaging with the public. And one of my favorite parts of our organization is our engagement with the schools, because labor has been forgotten at the school level when it comes to education, high school, junior high. And I remember as a kid seeing, when I was in high school, we were going through the decades for history, and I remember in the Roaring 20s, seeing the Roaring 20s, flipping the page over on the other side, it was all about women and child labor, and those things. I remember all the way back to my teens, flipping that page back and forth, going, this is a contradiction. What is so roaring about that? Ironically, all these years later, look what I do. But I had a funny situation happen. I guess it's not funny. I can only laugh at it. When my oldest son graduated before he graduated from high school, he was going to school at Carlsbad High in Carlsbad. He sends me a picture of his history book describing unions as a cartel. Literally describing unions as a cartel. And my son is like, and obviously my son, he's my son. He comes from a labor family. Not only is his mother's side a complete labor family, he's looking at this going, oh my God. Now, obviously most kids growing up look at that and they just look at the word cartel and, they think we got guns running around chasing people, shooting them. And it's just incredible how the negative environment around unions have spilled into that being allowed to be a textbook in a school. And so clearly we have the opposite on today. And what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the activities in which, Carlos, you and some of our staff members are doing through the Teamsters Hispanic Caucus, the 1932 Teamsters Hispanic Caucus, and the engagement that we are having with the schools to, number one, dispel the fact that we're not cartels, number one, and two, that we are trying to bring a better message about labor and teach the youth about labor in a much better way. And first, Nicole, I get to say thank you all the time to Carlos sitting here to my left. I don't always say thank you to him because we work together, so he has to deal with me on bad days. Anyway, thank you, Nicole, for what you're doing in this space. My team is so complimentary of you and how you have helped kind of create this space. And what I'd like for you to do is talk about this relationship and talk about this partnership and talk about how the kids have engaged in understanding what unions are and understanding labor. And, I got a bunch of questions for you, but Nicole, why don't you start off by kind of introducing yourself and quickly talking about what this is all about in a nutshell, some of the things I just described. I can't hear her, just so you know. Are you on mute? I guess we should have tried an audio piece first. All right, for all my listeners, I'm sorry, while we figure out this piece. Carlos, seeing that you're here right now, let's switch over until we get that fixed. Carlos, what is your how do you see this engagement? Obviously, in front of me, I got a bunch of stuff that the kids wrote about the last time you guys were together. And from your perspective, how do you see this partnership with Nicole working out?
Well, we've been lucky enough to part with Nicole since last year, and I think the first time was one of the high schools in San Pedro. She reached out for volunteers, and we're more than happy to help. And what's exciting is the amount of kids that participate in this mock bargaining, mock negotiations.
So you're setting up a situation like it's bargaining, like you're actually arguing a contract with them.
It's crazy because a lot of them, it's economic classes, social studies class, depending on the teacher, and the amount of kids, and you're talking not a classroom, you're talking a lunchroom, you're talking a conference room type setting. You're talking about these kids walking in and understanding contract bargaining. And it seems like complex, but what you're really teaching them is that they have a voice in the workplace, that unions matter, and that unions are the only thing through your working career that will give you the opportunity to voice your opinion for you and your family.
Nicole, could we do a quick test to see if you're live?
Yeah,
There
can
we
you all
go.
hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Awesome. We're live.
Hey, that's amazing. Well, Carlos just did a great job. And let me also say I am so excited and so grateful to be on here with you all today and to really be developing this beautiful partnership with Teamsters Locals. Carlos and his crew started with me at San Pedro last year, and now we just did two in the last about month, two other collective bargaining simulations. So it just, the energy that Carlos and his team bring into the room to engage with students is just a beautiful thing to
So
witness.
what are these kids getting out of that, Nicole? How are they reacting to this space?
Well, I mean, look, I'm a almost 20-year teacher. I was an SEIU organizer before I became a teacher. And I worked with the hospital workers and nursing home workers. And so, you know, like, we're union thugs, sort of like what you were describing, right? Like 20 years ago.
I don't see you as a union thug, but hey, okay, I'll buy it.
Right. I have an underlying simmering anger that likes to be displayed at certain points, but we are not thugs, in fact. And what's been so wonderful over my career is that I've been integrating labor history, so students learn about the Homestead strike, right?
Mm-hmm.
When thousands of steel workers went on strike against, you know, the Bill Gates of the Gilded era.
Yep.
Right. And they joined together across ethnic lines, you know, new immigrants and more established American families, right? Native born American families. And so, you know, my whole career, I have been working to dispel that very idea that your son experienced in his textbook. I will say that what is especially gratifying as a labor person is that, you know, while we can say lots of bad things about social media, it actually has, I think in like the last maybe 5 years, really sort of turned young people's perception of the labor movement. And so what I really feel like we're doing at this point is helping students make sense, right? Why did the UAW go on strike? Why did SAG go on strike? Why did our teachers go on strike?
We came down there on your picket line, by the way.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate you. And this summer was like a beautiful, like, solidarity summer, right, in Los Angeles. And so all of these students are, you know, they are seeing the picket lines when they drive around town. They have family and they have friends who have, you know, in the past couple of years, there's been like a real amazing shift of energy, right, in labor activism.
Here's a comment. Here's a quote from one of them. I learned that we have to keep fighting for what we want. We have strong arguments. Teamwork is the core of getting an agreement.
Yes. So this is sort of what's really nice and elegant as a teacher about this collective bargaining simulation that Carlos has been supporting, is that working with seniors mostly, right? Students who are on the verge of graduating from high school. And we are asking them to take all of those communication skills that they've developed over their years in school, take all of their analytical skills that they have developed through their years in school, and say to them, great, now here's a set of issues that workers are fighting for, and half of you are going to be management and half of you are going to be those union folks, and you all have to figure out how to make this work at the bargaining table. And so, you know, they are discussing, they are analyzing, they are strategizing. And Carlos can speak to this. Like it's usually about a 4-hour simulation.
Yeah.
It starts off real quiet.
And like bargaining does at a certain point, man, they're getting spirited.
Then about an hour into it,
they hate each
so
other.
Noisy. Because they snap into it, right? Like they get it with the help of those coaches like Carlos, like Elroy, an SEIU 99 bus driver who was on the bargaining team that led the ULP strike last spring, right?
Another student said, I learned the power of a union, what it has, how powerful a strike is, and the process of a negotiations.
Yes,
high
we bring it
school.
to them, and yes, and they feel it, right? You think that 4 hours is not enough. It is. It really is, right? Like they instinctively get it because they are 18 years old, 17 years old.
This
They are
is my
getting ready
favorite one. This is my favorite
to face
one.
the world. Mm-hmm.
Collective bargaining. Again, these are quotes from the kids that were in the class. To be able to bargain, you must think about everyone. It has an us. It's an us situation. In other words, the collective. Getting people to understand the collective is where we get things done, not the individual situation. That, Carlos, what's your seeing that dynamic unfold with these kids? Obviously, we didn't have this when we were growing up.
No, we didn't.
And so probably would have really enjoyed it, right? If I had it a couple years earlier. Anyway, but like what's your feel for that?
There's a lot of different emotions that I go through when we do these, and shout out to Annabelle, Abe, and Juan that help with this project, and everyone that does it.
Yes.
The range of emotions is to see these kids, as Nicole was saying, where they start off very quiet and they're just kind of understanding we're walking through the simulation, and to see them kind of get out of their shell and speak up and get emotional talking about these certain issues, because we give them each an item that they're going to discuss, and they own it. Whichever side of the table they're on, they own it. And the interactions that we have in between these breaks about what it means to be, when you get into the world and you look at an application that says you're at will, what does that mean? Explaining those types of things to them and why there's power in a union. And then to see them get it at the end of the 4 hours, it's amazing. It's inspirational for me. The kids that I've met, like I take these pictures with these kids, and they just share about their lives instantly, because I think they open up more so because you're teaching them real life scenarios, things that they're going to deal with in the real world. And there's a lot they don't know. And if you explain it as a scenario plays out, this is what a union does, this is how you react, is this the hill to die on, they instantly get it right off the bat. And I haven't had, I love all my teams, but I'm going to give a shout out to the ladies. The ones that the chair, the ladies are the ones that are always they're just putting it down, we're not budging. This is what we're going to get.
Yes.
And to that point, here's another quote. I learned that providing good working conditions for workers is important. It's significant to prioritize safety and efficiency. So all this villainization we get, I don't see corporations going into the school and talking about this, right? This isn't a one-way street where we want workers to only benefit and collapse organizations. No, we want safety. We want efficiency. We want it to be a win-win. You want people to be able to have a good middle-class job, provide for their family, and it not to be this turnover environment where you're having to jump from job to job to job to job. And seeing young adults, kids at this age catch on to it and being able to connect to it, for us, the reason why we've built out this program is we want to build that familiarity with them as young as possible, so that when they get to 18 and they get into the workforce, that they're looking for what's going to be good, because there's a lot of companies we all know that just aren't providing good jobs, and we need them to understand, hey, look, if you end up landing there, there's something you could do to organize, number one. And we'll have a whole show on this at some point in the future. But the first thing you should do is look for the one that is a union job, because clearly a lot of the work's already been done. It's not all done, but a lot of the work has been done, and it's a good starting point for you at 18 years old if you're going to be in the workforce. And some say, I'm going to go to college. Do you know how many people that have high degrees, like you just heard Scott on earlier, he's got all these degrees and he's running a bike shop, right? Sometimes, even though we may want to do that, and we go to college and we do we may end up still in the workforce in another space, and it still should be good jobs. So teaching people at a young age that this is what you look for we believe it's just good for our community, and it's good for our social environment. And Nicole, what you guys are doing there is just phenomenal. Seeing the pictures, seeing everything that's going on. By the way, this is KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Don't forget, we are live on the radio show, and call in if you have any questions. Nicole, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that interestingly enough, when I ask students how many of you are already working, there's always a collection of young people who had raised their hands, right? I mean, I know myself, when I was in high school, I worked at Hot Dog on a Stick, and Maria's Italian Kitchen. And so for them to understand the power of having a say in your wages and benefits and working conditions, they can directly compare, what they're experiencing at their workplaces today with what workers who are organized and who are at the table together and who are using their collective power, right, to fight for their fair share. I think that that's a really powerful, moment for these students.
Nicole,
Nicole,
how do you deal with pushback administratively, internally? Because I had a son that looked at his book and it said we were a cartel, right? That's the opposite side of a school district on the opposite side of wanting to teach what you're doing. So I'm assuming you run into some pushback from some people that may not necessarily agree that these things should be taught. And so how do you deal with that briefly? Because we are running to the end of the show and we only got 5 minutes. But I'd like to, I think it's important to know that individuals like you are doing a great job of making sure this important subject is at the forefront. And that doesn't necessarily mean people are just saying, yeah, go right ahead and do it. How do you deal with the pushback?
So I want to say first off that Los Angeles is a union town. So I haven't heard much pushback. But I will say that something that I am is that the essence of collective bargaining is conflict resolution, like what you were talking about earlier, right? This is about creating a win-win. And companies, organizations want workers who are going to stay with them, who are going to continue developing their expertise, who are going to, develop loyalty, right? That's what makes a company strongest. And I think that for folks who are skeptical of this work, the first thing I would do is to invite them to come and observe, right? And Carlos can speak to this because those management teams can come sort of hard.
Yeah, those kids do a great job of playing the other side, right?
Yeah, because that's the side that they know about, right?
Yeah.
That's the side that they're familiar with. That's sort of like cutthroat management perspective.
It's my way or the highway.
But the good thing about that,
Right.
that I was having this conversation with Nicole when we were out there, and she put me on the management side, which I wasn't happy with in the beginning, but I rolled through it. But what was interesting,
All of a sudden you started to become tough.
it was interesting to talk to them about how that side is about building a relationship. It's about building trust and about how you need to take care of your workforce at the same time and within your budgets and not be, there's no sense in taking pennies back just to try to show the boss, hey, I took pennies back. You got to take care of the people that take care of you. And I think that was it was helpful for me to understand that aspect of it. And,
helps create better managers.
It does.
Yes, exactly.
Them
We're saying
understanding
there is another way.
Right.
It's
There
not
is another way.
That's right. It's not all adversarial. It's not all everybody's, fighting each other. Yeah, you get some disagreements. At the end of the day, the objective is to resolve issues, and 99.9% of the time, that's what the sides do, is they resolve the issues. There may be some spirited discussion as you're getting there, but the collective goal is supposed to be to help those workers get to a better place. And if both sides have that in mind, we will always be there. And I think that you make a very good point that we jokingly say, oh, the management side, we hate them. We're all literally joking about that, because at the end of the day, teaching those kids the management side, some of them are going to become managers. And like a couple of my children that are in positions, they absolutely respect the workers because we've taught them to do that. And they're going to be better managers, and they're going to have better relationships with their employees, and they're going to actually be able to argue to their superiors in a much more effective manner. if they understand that. We got 2 minutes left. Any closing remarks, Carlos and Nicole? Let's start with Carlos.
I just want to say, thanks to Nicole and you, Randy, because you've actually, been the forefront here, especially in the Inland Empire, bringing labor conversations to the schools. And it, as much as it helps the kids, it helps us too. So when I get negative or I have my negative thoughts about the labor movement and where it's at, coming to these schools and working with Nicole and the other labor activists in there, bring me back to the place of happiness and why I originally got involved. Because every now and then I need that kick from the butt. Why you get involved, and I appreciate that.
And Nicole, isn't this cool? We got our own labor show in the IE. It's the only labor show. The 4.5 million people in the IE, a labor show. We are talking about labor. We are having great guests on. We got so many guests lined up. It's crazy. Glad we were able to sneak in. Any closing remarks? We got only about a minute left.
I welcome you all to come and do a little taping of one of these simulations that we've done so that your listeners can hear just how amazing these conversations are. And I'm just so thankful that Carlos, you, Randy, brought me on here today. Love to get the word out. And, IE high school folks, bring me. Let's go. Let's do this.
So the way you get the word out is to share our link. It's the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, KCAA 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Longtime organizer, first-time radio host. What we're doing here is building worker power. Talk with your family. Talk with your friends. Talk with your neighbors. Ask them how to build worker power. Randy Corrigan signing off.